guess I'll kind of open this up to everybody here, but what is the speed of our fiber networks, or what does the speed of our fiber networks and the high reliability of our electric system mean to the blockchain technology business? Again, that's another one of those kind of interesting, because I see that and I see the debates and I see all that going on. It reminds me back of the days when Wi-Fiber. Anybody want to kind of pop into that at all? I see smiles.
Well, there's been a very, very public process within the PUD discussing what we call a high-density load rate, which is directly related to technology operations similar to Bitcoin. Bitcoin has some very interesting and unique characteristics, and some of the things that we see as the PUD caused us to step back, and we went through a very, very lengthy public outreach process to develop electrical rates that were applicable to those types of loads. From the fiber standpoint, I think there's something that's more important than speed, and we tend to confuse speed sometimes. For a Bitcoin operation, I'm not sure that it matters whether they're on a 25 meg circuit or a 100 meg circuit or a gig circuit. What they're concerned about is latency. It's how fast does that signal travel through the network, and particularly after it leaves our network or the local ISP's network. So they have many, many different considerations that they're looking at. Obviously, we came to a very public but very reasonable and agreeable rate for the cryptocurrency and other technology operations of that type. We have the fiber available, so it is something that we expect to see in the county.
That spawn any other thoughts of types of businesses that may possibly pull in lots of data? We talked about software engineering. We talked about a lot of graphical, video, audio. Do you think anything else?
Well, it actually brought up something else, which was a bit of a gotcha that we ran into with one of the businesses I serve, related to, and something that we take for granted, which is sometimes it's not about the speed, as you mentioned, but it's the latency. So as a lot of the businesses here, just about every business now is looking to move their, some things that they used to have on their local servers to the cloud and just have as a hosted service. So I had a business who was looking to do that. They had pretty much their primary application they used in the office. They wanted to move it to a cloud-based technology solution. And so we did some study on, or did some work on seeing what sort of speed they would get to the data center of the hosting provider. And what we found is that it probably took 7 or 8 hops to get from their office to the data center, which was, I think, in the Midwest someplace, maybe Kansas or something like that. And it was interesting because once it left the local network or the local NANCH area, we couldn't necessarily determine which, we couldn't dictate which route it was going to take to get to where it was going. And we found that certain networks, there was much more latency depending on the service provider. And that was a really significant consideration, because there was much more delay in using that application if they used, say, the PUD fiber network as opposed to, say, Charter's cable. Because Charter cable, even though the connection speed was faster right to their doorstep, it was slower down speed because it went through a data center, I think in California, that then all of a sudden it slowed it down. So it's I guess my caution here to the businesses out there is, if you're looking to do more and more things on the using the broadband network, don't assume just because you have a certain speed coming right to your doorstep that is necessarily, you can presume that you're going to have that all the way down to the endpoint that you need to connect to, depending on what it is you're doing. Whether it's latency, that's a consideration, which is, if you're doing like video work, is a huge consideration. So sometimes it's not just about speed. And you don't necessarily know that unless you do a little digging.
Yeah, I would concur with that. We found that within another network, and it took adding on some services before we realized.
Yeah, right.
Hey, what's going on? We have a chink in our armor here.
You don't think about it sometimes, or you don't need to think about it until something isn't working right.
Yeah,
Yeah, even county to county or city to
Exactly.
city or.
All right.
Yeah, it's easy to think about. It's really fast here, but yeah, it doesn't look like the whole chain. One more question? You want me to go ahead and hit our final? Where are we at there, Jane?
Well, I'll just kind of jump in and
Okay.
add one more piece. Sorry, I stand in the way from Rebecca. So you just talked a little bit about it as far as existing businesses, not necessarily depending on that speed or things could change. What advice would you give to entrepreneurs who are looking for a location for their business? So they're just forming their business, they're going to look for a spot, whether that's remote or in a retail, traditional office setting. What advice would you give from your various perspectives on what they should do?
Started up in Wenatchee. Well, I can tell you that I had to build a software team from scratch. And so the decision was made to go virtual. And so it made it a no-brainer, to be here. And just the recruiting aspect of it was great. There actually are some team members that are considering moving to this area. A couple are in Spokane. But Wenatchee is seriously a terrific place to start a business. I mentioned earlier that I did run a software company of my own for about 10 years, and I moved to Wenatchee. Location to air travel was important because I consulted around. Location to Hanford actually was important too. I wrote software for the Department of Energy. Being midway in the state is useful because of course, you're going to wind up in the Puget Sound region, but it's surprising how often I've had reason to work and have meetings in Spokane. The list goes on. The central location is great. The transportation is solid. And of course, the network bandwidth is great. And then you don't have to show the picture, but I have a picture of the best sunset ever. And it's from my office at home. And it's one of the reasons why I live in Wenatchee and try to talk people into being here. You didn't have to do that, but it's.
I do. You brought
That-
visuals, which
Yeah, I mean,
always
that-
is great, so I do.
Yeah, that's why I live and work in Wenatchee and try to talk other people into doing likewise.
So how about you, Chris? If you were going to start up another small branch office, what would you be considering if you're expanding?
I think the first thing I'd do, I'd be talking to any of the local IT companies to know, okay, this is what I need. Where's the best spot? I mean, obviously, anywhere in the valley, I think will cut it, but that's the first thing. If you know what you need, you know what you want to do, come talk to the locals. And I know that any one of the local companies can get these folks.
So would you even consider a really cheap, great piece of property if it didn't have good bandwidth?
Nope.
And I hear that from
Not unless it's a dry storage or something like that, yeah.
Right. How about you, Martin?
So if it was an entrepreneur who maybe was someone who technology necessarily wasn't even part of their business, but they were so we're going to make the presumption that they're going someplace that has broadband. So assuming that's in place, the thing I would encourage them to do is don't run any part of your business that is dependent on having some piece of technology physically in your office. I mean, other than maybe the laptop that you use to connect to your services, but just rent your service or buy your services through cloud providers so that if you have a disaster or you want to be travel or whatever, you can be wherever you are, and you don't have to worry about infrastructure. You don't have to hire someone to put anything in your office. All those headaches go away, and pretty much I would tell you just about every aspect of a business now can be run through a cloud service, and you don't really have to do anything other than buy your computer, which is such a relief because if something breaks, it doesn't matter. You just go buy another computer, plug the network cord in, or wirelessly connect it, and you're doing your business again.
That's right.
And there's not that huge oh my God, someone else is responsible for making sure my technology works. It's just, and I think that's such a relief for a lot of business owners because technology is such a scary thing for them. So that would be my advice.
Like the days of the old phones, right? Cut the cord.
Yeah,
That's right.
right.
All right, so let's kind of wrap things up. So maybe you can piggyback off of that for us if you could. And then also tell us a little bit more about where we're going in the future from kind of the PUD plans, whether they've got any sneak peeks or what you can tell us about what's coming next.
All of our plans are public. Let me start by really talking briefly about where we are today. I mentioned earlier we cover, I think, about 70% of the county, or I'm saying I think I mentioned it, but if not, we cover about 70% of the county. That equates to passing about 31,000 premises, residents and businesses. We have about 14,000 active customers on the network. We have about 120 gigs of capacity at the core of the network. We have finished many of our network upgrades to achieve that 5 nines reliability. We also, at the end of this month, will finish the last of the technology upgrade, moving from the old original technology, which has limits of 25 by 2, up to the latest technology, which allows us to offer gigabit service anywhere in the county. As part of the strategic planning process in 14 and 15, I chaired a fiber topic team. There were many other topic teams, but one of the strongest demands that we saw out of the strategic planning effort was to start back in and expanding the fiber network and making it available to more people. The Board of Commissioners heard that. They gave us the go-ahead. They've said as long as there's public power benefit money available, they would like to expand the network. Over the next decade, we will be expanding it to about an additional 9,300 locations, which will take us up to 85 to 90% of the county. Given the geography of this county, that is tremendous. It is just absolutely tremendous. It's going to cost about $25 million to achieve that. And we started on it this year, and we're going to be progressing steadily on that expansion. At the same time that that's happening, we're constantly looking at our network. We're changing our network. And everything we're doing is focused on making the network better, making the network more reliable, and also being able to add additional advanced services and bandwidth to the network. That is a large undertaking. We're very committed to it and committed to doing it successfully.
And that's an excellent point. We often forget that this isn't something you just build and it's just going to always work, that there takes a whole lot of work to make it go and continue to go. So unless we have any other questions from the audience or anything, I think I'm going to try to wrap us up. Thank you guys very much for showing up. And Jenny, do you have any last final words?
I do.
I will pass it back to you.
So I do want to thank our panelists. Let's give them a round of applause for today. We really appreciate their time and insight. If you have additional questions, the panelists will be around for a few minutes after we conclude, so you're welcome to come up and network. Or, of course, check out one of our upcoming GWADA events where you can network with these individuals along with a lot of our membership base. We couldn't have put on today without the support of the Chelan PUD, so I'd like to thank their staff, Mike, Kimberly, Brent, for being here today. Let's give them a round of applause. And additionally, GWADA is supported by the Port of Chelan County and the Port of Douglas County. They've been long-term investors in helping us grow our mission in the community. We're also supported by NCW Life, who's here filming today. If you haven't checked it out, there's a new local TV channel, Localtel Channel 12, Charter Channel 19. So this will be re-aired shortly on that network. Thank you again for being here today.
Thank you.
Thank you.